The autumn breeze rustled through the trees as Amanda Reynolds drove through the quiet streets of suburban Chicago. Her mind wandered between the stack of medical reports waiting at her veterinary clinic and the upcoming fundraiser for the local animal shelter. Something caught her attention: a Victorian-style house that stood out from its well-maintained neighbors, its weathered paint and overgrown garden telling a story of abandonment. She had passed by this house several times before, but today was different. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the cracked concrete of the backyard, and there, partially hidden in the shade, lay a German Shepherd. The dog's ribs were visible through its matted fur, and its eyes held a haunting emptiness that made Amanda's heart clench. Without hesitation, she pulled over to the curb. Years of experience working with abandoned animals had taught her to approach with caution, but this dog didn't show any signs of aggression. Instead, it remained motionless, watching her with resigned acceptance. The once proud animal had clearly given up hope, its powerful frame now weakened by neglect and hunger. As Amanda slowly approached, she noticed more details that troubled her. The dog's coat, which should have been thick and lustrous, was tangled and dirty. Its paws showed signs of prolonged immobility, and the air around it carried the unmistakable scent of abandonment. There were no empty bowls, no signs of care, nothing to suggest anyone had been looking after this magnificent creature. "Hey there, buddy," Amanda whispered, keeping her voice soft and gentle. The dog's ears twitched slightly, but it made no attempt to move. Its eyes, though, remained fixed on her, carrying a depth of emotion that seemed almost human. She noticed a metal tag hanging from its worn collar, but it was too encrusted with dirt to read. Over the next few days, Amanda established a routine. She would stop by twice daily, leaving food and fresh water at a comfortable distance. The German Shepherd's initial wariness gradually gave way to cautious acceptance. By the third day, it had gathered enough strength to lift its head and sample the food she brought. Amanda named him Max, though something told her this wasn't his original name. As she watched his slow progress, questions began to form in her mind. This wasn't a typical stray. Everything about him suggested he had once been someone's beloved pet. The house had been empty for months, according to the neighbors, but why would anyone leave such a magnificent animal behind? The mystery deepened when she finally managed to clean the tag on his collar, revealing a name she didn't recognize and a partial phone number that had been scratched out. Amanda's investigative instincts kicked in. As a veterinarian, she had access to various pet databases and rescue networks. The more she dug, the more puzzling the situation became. A search through local shelter records revealed that the German Shepherd had been adopted years ago, but there was something odd about the file. It showed the dog had been returned once, with only the cryptic note "unstable behavior" beside the return date. This didn't align with what Amanda observed. Despite his traumatic experiences, Max showed no signs of aggression or instability. He was cautious, yes, but his eyes held intelligence and a deep sadness that spoke of betrayal rather than behavioral issues. Every day, as she sat with him a little longer, she noticed how he would occasionally glance toward the empty house, as if waiting for someone to return. One evening, as Amanda prepared to leave, she noticed Max's attention fixed on something beyond the fence. His ears were perked, and for the first time, she saw a spark of recognition in his eyes. When she turned to look, she caught a glimpse of a shadow moving swiftly away from the house. The incident left her with an unsettling feeling. Someone was watching, and Max knew who it was. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give it a like. Tell us which city you're watching from. Let's continue. The following days brought more questions than answers. Amanda's routine now revolved around Max's care, and her colleagues at the clinic noticed her preoccupation with the mysterious German Shepherd. Dr. Sarah Chen, her closest friend and fellow veterinarian, finally confronted her during their lunch break. "There's something about this dog that doesn't add up," Amanda explained, showing Sarah the incomplete shelter records on her tablet. "Look at these adoption dates. He was first adopted by the Morrison family, returned 3 months later, then adopted again by someone whose name has been redacted from the system. Who does that?" Sarah leaned closer, her brow furrowed. "And you said there's a scratched-out phone number on his tag?" When Amanda nodded, Sarah continued, "Have you tried running his microchip?" Amanda's eyes widened. In her focus on the visible details, she hadn't considered the most obvious solution. That afternoon, she brought a scanner to Max, who had grown comfortable enough to let her approach closely. But when she ran the device over him, it revealed another layer of mystery. The microchip had been deactivated. "This is highly unusual," Amanda muttered to herself. Deactivating a microchip required specific documentation and veterinary authorization. She began making calls to local vet clinics, trying to trace the paperwork, but each inquiry led to another dead end. As weeks passed, Max's physical condition improved dramatically. His coat regained its shine, his muscles strengthened, and his eyes began to show signs of life. But certain behaviors remained puzzling. Every time a police siren wailed in the distance, he would become intensely alert, his attention fixed in the direction of the sound. During thunderstorms, he would dig frantically in specific spots around the yard, as if searching for something buried beneath the soil. One rainy evening, Amanda arrived later than usual. The street was unusually quiet, the streetlights casting eerie shadows through the mist. As she approached the house, she noticed something different. Max wasn't in his usual spot. For a moment, panic gripped her heart until she heard a soft whine coming from behind the overgrown bushes. There she found Max, but he wasn't alone. Beside him sat an elderly man, gently stroking the dog's head. The stranger looked up as Amanda approached, his weathered face carrying an expression of both relief and concern. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said, his voice gravelly with age. "Name's Frank Wilson. I've been watching you with him these past weeks." He gestured toward Max, who seemed completely at ease in his presence. Frank, as it turned out, had been the caretaker of the Victorian house for over 3 decades. He knew its history, its secrets, and most importantly, he knew about Max's previous owners. "That dog," he said, glancing at Max with a mixture of affection and sadness. "He's not just any German shepherd, he was specially trained." Amanda sat down on a nearby stone bench, her heart racing. Trained for what? Frank's expression became guarded. "I promised I wouldn't tell. But I will say this. The people who had him before, they were involved in something important, something that required absolute secrecy. When they left suddenly, I thought they'd come back for him. They never did." As if understanding they were talking about him, Max moved closer to Amanda, pressing against her leg. His body language had changed. He was alert, protective, scanning the surroundings with renewed purpose. "There's more you should know," Frank continued, lowering his voice. "Last week, someone came asking about him. They didn't identify themselves, but they knew things. Specific details about his training, about what he was capable of. I didn't tell them anything, but," he paused, looking over his shoulder, "I don't think they've given up searching." The implications of Frank's words sent a chill down Amanda's spine. Max wasn't just an abandoned pet. He was a guardian of secrets, a silent witness to events that someone wanted to keep hidden. As she processed this information, a car drove slowly past the house, its headlights sweeping across the yard. Both Max and Frank tensed, and Amanda realized that her simple act of kindness had drawn her into something far more complex than she could have imagined. Amanda spent a restless night processing Frank's revelations. The next morning, she arrived at her veterinary clinic earlier than usual, determined to dig deeper into Max's mysterious past. As she reviewed his medical records again, something caught her attention. a small notation she had previously overlooked. The date of his first vaccination coincided with a specialized training program for service dogs. Doctor, Sarah Chen found her still poring over the documents during lunch break. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Sarah remarked, setting down 2 cups of coffee. Amanda shared Frank's revelations, watching her friend's expression shift from skepticism to intrigue. "Wait," Sarah interrupted, pulling out her tablet. 3 years ago, I attended a conference on specialized animal training programs. There was a presentation about dogs trained for discreet security operations." She pulled up an old conference schedule, scrolling through it rapidly. The presenter was Dr. Marcus Hayes. He worked with various organizations, training dogs for non-military security operations. Amanda leaned forward, her heart racing. "Can you contact him?" Sarah's fingers flew over the keyboard. His last known position was at the Chicago Institute for Advanced Security Studies, but she paused, frowning at the screen. He left abruptly 2 years ago. No forwarding information. That evening, Amanda arrived at Max's yard to find him unusually agitated. His behavior had changed since Frank's visit. He was more alert, more protective. As she approached, he suddenly stood at attention, his ears forward, eyes fixed on the street. Moments later, a black SUV with tinted windows drove past, moving slowly enough to draw attention. Instead of leaving at her usual time, Amanda decided to stay longer. She sat with Max in the growing darkness, watching as the same vehicle passed by twice more. Each time Max's reaction confirmed her suspicions. He recognized something about that car or its occupants. The next day, Amanda received an unexpected email from Sarah. "You need to see this," the message read, followed by a link to an archived news article. The story detailed a controversial research project at the Chicago Institute involving advanced behavioral training techniques. The program had been suddenly terminated, all records sealed, and several key personnel had resigned, including Dr. Hayes. Amanda was so absorbed in reading that she almost missed the sound of footsteps approaching her office. Looking up, she found herself face to face with a man she had never seen before. He was well dressed, his demeanor professional, but somehow unsettling. "Dr. Reynolds?" His smile didn't reach his eyes. "I understand you've been caring for a German Shepherd in the Oakwood district. I represent an organization interested in retrieving him." Amanda maintained her composure, though her heart was pounding. "The dog was abandoned. He needed medical care, which I've provided." "Admirable," the man replied smoothly, placing a business card on her desk. "However, this animal is part of a proprietary program. We're prepared to compensate you for your expenses and ensure he's properly cared for." Before Amanda could respond, Sarah appeared in the doorway, her expression deliberately casual. "Amanda, your next appointment is here." The man nodded politely and left, but not before giving Amanda one last meaningful look. The business card bore only a name, Thomas Bennett, and a phone number. When Amanda tried to research the number later, it led nowhere. That evening, she drove to Max's yard, taking a different route, watching her rearview mirror carefully. Max greeted her with unusual intensity, staying closer to her than ever before. As she sat with him under the darkening sky, pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. The specialized training, the sealed records, the mysterious organization. Max wasn't just a security dog. He had been part of something bigger, something that powerful people wanted to keep hidden. A text message from Sarah interrupted her thoughts. "Found something about Hayes. Meeting him tomorrow. Don't trust Bennett." Amanda looked at Max, who sat alert beside her, his eyes scanning the surroundings. In that moment, she made a decision. She couldn't leave him here anymore. He wasn't safe, and neither was she. But as she reached for his collar, planning to take him home with her, Max suddenly tensed. His ears pricked forward, and a low growl rumbled in his chest. Through the gathering dusk, Amanda saw multiple shadows moving at the edge of the property. They were no longer alone. Amanda's heart raced as she assessed their situation. The shadows were moving deliberately, encircling the property. Max remained at her side, his posture alert but controlled, displaying the disciplined training that had been such a mystery. Without hesitation, Amanda pulled out her phone and quickly texted Sarah their location. Suddenly, Max's demeanor changed. His ears perked up and his tail gave a slight wag, a reaction Amanda had never seen before. From the darkness emerged a familiar figure, Frank Wilson, accompanied by an older man with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. "Dr. Reynolds," Frank called out softly, "this is Dr. Marcus Hayes. We need to talk." The other figures melted back into the shadows as Hayes approached. Max's reaction was remarkable. He clearly recognized the man, showing a mixture of excitement and respect. Hayes knelt beside the German shepherd, examining him with professional interest. "He hasn't changed much," Hayes remarked, his voice carrying both affection and concern. "Still alert, still protective. You've done an excellent job caring for him, Dr. Reynolds." Amanda's relief at seeing Frank was tempered by caution. "Dr. Hayes, your name has come up in my research. You were involved in Max's training program." Hayes nodded, his expression growing serious. "Max, though we called him Atlas then, was part of a specialized program. We trained dogs to serve as guardians for sensitive research facilities. Not attack dogs," he added quickly, seeing Amanda's concern. "They were trained to detect and respond to specific environmental changes, unauthorized access attempts, even electronic surveillance." Frank guided them inside the old Victorian house, which Amanda had never entered before. Despite its external appearance, one room was surprisingly well maintained, filled with monitoring equipment. "I've been watching over him," Frank explained, "making sure he was safe until the right time." "Safe from what?" Amanda asked, though she was beginning to understand. Hayes settled into an old armchair, his face illuminated by the soft glow of multiple screens. "Our program was highly successful, too successful. Atlas here was our finest achievement. He could detect sophisticated surveillance equipment, identify specific chemical compounds, even recognize patterns of behavior that indicated security breaches. But then we discovered some of our techniques were being adapted for less ethical purposes. By Thomas Bennett's organization," Amanda ventured. "Bennett is just a representative," Hayes replied, his voice hardening. "The organization he works for saw the potential to use our training methods for corporate espionage. When we refused to cooperate, they began pressuring us. Several of our dogs disappeared, their training records were altered, and then a noise from outside interrupted him. Max was instantly alert, moving to the window with practiced efficiency. Frank quickly checked the monitoring equipment, then relaxed. "Just the neighbor's cat," he confirmed. Hayes continued, "I had to shut down the program to protect our work. Most of our dogs were safely relocated, but Atlas was special. He had been trained with additional protocols, ones that could expose the entire operation if they fell into the wrong hands. I couldn't risk him being taken." Amanda thought about Max's behavior over the past weeks, his reaction to police sirens, his careful scanning of the environment, the way he dug in specific spots during storms. "He's been continuing his surveillance patterns," she realized. "Exactly," Hayes nodded approvingly. "Even without active handlers, he maintained his training. Those spots he digs in, they're where we used to plant monitoring equipment. The sirens, part of his response conditioning. He's been protecting this location all this time, waiting for the right people to return." Frank pulled up a series of images on one of the monitors. "These are from last week. Bennett's people have been increasing their surveillance. They know Atlas is here, and they know he's the key to understanding our complete training protocols." As if in response to his name, Max, or Atlas, pressed against Amanda's leg, his eyes fixed on the door. A moment later, they all heard the distinct sound of a car pulling up outside. Dr. Hayes quickly moved to the equipment, checking the exterior cameras. Amanda watched the screens, her mind racing with the implications of everything she'd learned. Max wasn't just a trained security dog, he was a living guardian of secrets that could reshape the entire field of animal intelligence and security training. And now, standing in this hidden command center within a seemingly abandoned house, she realized she had a decision to make. The security monitors showed 3 black SUVs parked outside, their headlights cutting through the evening mist. Amanda recognized Thomas Bennett stepping out of the lead vehicle, accompanied by several others in dark suits. Max, or Atlas as she now knew him, remained perfectly still, his training evident in every controlled movement. "They're earlier than expected," Hayes muttered, quickly typing commands into the surveillance system. "Frank, initiate Protocol Omega." Frank moved swiftly to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a sophisticated electronic setup. "Dr. Reynolds," he called to Amanda, "you need to make a choice now. Once we activate this protocol, there's no going back." Amanda looked at the dog who had changed her life over the past weeks. In his eyes, she saw not just intelligence, but trust. He had recognized something in her from that first day, an integrity that matched his own. Dr. Hayes seemed to read her thoughts. "Atlas chose you," he said softly. "Out of all the people who passed by this house, he revealed himself to you. That wasn't accidental. It's part of his advanced training. He can assess human behavior patterns, recognize genuine compassion from calculated interest. When Bennett's people came searching, he stayed hidden. But with you, he made contact." A sharp knock at the front door interrupted them. "Doctor." "Hayes," Bennett's voice carried through the old wood. "We know you're in there. Let's handle this professionally." Hayes turned to Amanda, his expression urgent but calm. "What Bennett doesn't know is that Atlas's training goes beyond security protocols. We discovered something extraordinary, a level of cognitive processing in dogs that nobody thought possible. Atlas doesn't just detect threats, he understands complex patterns of human behavior. That's what they really want, the key to unlocking enhanced canine intelligence." Amanda's veterinary training kicked in, her mind racing through the implications. The behavioral markers in his file, the instability note, those were cover-ups. "Exactly," Frank confirmed, still working at the control panel. "Whenever anyone got too close to discovering his true capabilities, we created false records, relocated him, but we couldn't keep moving him forever. He needed a permanent guardian, someone who would understand and protect him." The knocking became more insistent. Through the monitors, Amanda watched as Bennett's men moved to surround the house. Atlas remained focused, his body language shifting subtly as he tracked their movements. "The choice is yours, Doctor." "Reynolds," Hayes said, holding out what looked like a standard dog collar, but Amanda could see it was anything but ordinary. "Atlas has already chosen you. This collar contains everything. All our research, the training protocols, everything we discovered about enhanced canine intelligence. It can only be activated by someone Atlas trusts completely." Amanda looked at the dog who had captured her heart, understanding now why he had seemed so different from any animal she had ever known. His intelligence went beyond training. He was a breakthrough in animal cognition, a guardian of secrets that could revolutionize our understanding of canine capabilities. "If you accept," Frank added, "you'll be taking on more than just a pet. You'll be protecting years of research that could change how we view animal intelligence forever. But you'll also be making yourself a target. Bennett's organization won't stop trying to acquire Atlas and the knowledge he represents." The sound of breaking glass from the back of the house spurred them into action. Atlas moved smoothly into a defensive position, but his eyes never left Amanda. In that moment, she saw their paths merging, the veterinarian who had stopped to help an abandoned dog, and the extraordinary animal who had chosen her as his new guardian. "Dr. Reynolds," Hayes urged, "we need your decision now." Once Protocol Omega is activated, Atlas's original training protocols will be permanently locked. He'll imprint on you completely, transferring his core recognition patterns. You'll be his handler, his protector, and the only one who can access the knowledge he carries. Through the monitors, Amanda watched Bennett's men attempting to breach the house's security measures. Atlas stood ready, waiting for her choice. The remarkable dog had trusted her from the beginning, seeing something in her that even she hadn't recognized in herself. Now it was her turn to trust him. Amanda reached for the collar with steady hands, her decision made. The moment her fingers touched the device, Atlas moved closer, positioning himself perfectly for her to secure it around his neck. The sophisticated technology seamlessly blended with his existing collar, looking completely ordinary to the untrained eye. "Initiating Protocol Omega," Frank announced, his fingers flying over the control panel. The house's hidden security systems hummed to life, and Hayes quickly guided them toward a concealed exit in the basement. "The protocol will erase all digital traces of Atlas's advanced training," Hayes explained as they moved. "Every record, every piece of data will be encrypted and stored only in that collar. Bennett's organization will have nothing to find, no matter how hard they search." Above them, they could hear footsteps as Bennett's men entered the house. Atlas remained calm, guiding them through the darkness with remarkable precision. Amanda realized he had known about this escape route all along. It was part of why he had stayed near the house, protecting these secrets until the right moment. They emerged in an adjacent property's garden, where Sarah Chen waited in her car, engine running. "I got your text," she said as they quickly got in. "Figured you might need a getaway driver." Atlas settled in the back seat with Amanda, his body language completely transformed. Gone was any trace of the abandoned dog she had first encountered. He was alert, confident, and fully engaged in his protective role. Yet when he looked at her, she still saw the same trust and connection that had drawn her to him weeks ago. "The collar's synchronization is complete," Hayes confirmed, checking a small device. "Amanda, you're now Atlas's official handler. The knowledge he protects, our research into enhanced canine intelligence, can only be accessed through your shared bond. Bennett's organization may figure this out eventually, but they can never force the connection. Atlas has to choose to share his knowledge, and he'll only do that with someone he trusts completely." As they drove through the quiet suburban streets, Amanda saw Bennett's SUVs in the rearview mirror, searching in the wrong direction. Atlas had intentionally left false trails during his time at the house, another aspect of his remarkable training. "What happens now?" Amanda asked, her hand resting gently on Atlas's head. "You go back to your life," Hayes replied with a smile. "Continue your veterinary practice. Care for Atlas as your dog. To the outside world, he'll appear to be an exceptionally well-trained German Shepherd, but you'll work with us, helping to develop and refine our understanding of canine intelligence. Atlas is just the beginning. What we've learned could revolutionize how we interact with and understand animals." Sarah pulled into Amanda's driveway, her eyes wide with excitement. "Count me in for whatever happens next," she said. "Someone needs to help cover for you at the clinic when you're doing your secret research." Atlas followed Amanda into her house as if he had lived there all along. He did a perfect perimeter check before settling near her favorite reading chair, his eyes bright with intelligence and contentment. This was what he had been waiting for, a partner who would understand and protect not just him, but the groundbreaking discoveries he represented. In the weeks that followed, life developed a new rhythm. To her clients, Amanda remained the dedicated veterinarian they had always known. Atlas became a familiar sight at her clinic, winning hearts with his impeccable behavior. Only a select few knew that during quiet evenings and weekends, they were pioneering new frontiers in animal cognition research. Bennett's organization made a few more attempts to locate them, but Atlas's training proved invaluable in detecting and avoiding surveillance. Eventually, they seemed to accept that their opportunity was lost. The secrets of enhanced canine intelligence remained safe, waiting to be revealed when the time was right. 1 year later, Amanda sat in her backyard, watching Atlas play with a group of dogs from her clinic. His acting skills were perfect. He romped and played like any other dog, never revealing his extraordinary capabilities. But when their eyes met, she saw the spark of shared purpose, the bond that had grown even stronger through their partnership. She thought back to that autumn evening when she had first spotted him in the abandoned yard. What had seemed like a simple act of kindness had led her to become part of something revolutionary. A partnership that would eventually change our understanding of the animal mind forever. Atlas had chosen well, and so had she. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope Amanda and Atlas's extraordinary journey has touched your hearts. To continue exploring such captivating stories, we've prepared a special playlist with equally engaging narratives. Find it by clicking the link to your left. If you enjoyed this tale of trust, intelligence, and unexpected destiny, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Every day, we bring you unique stories that explore the amazing bonds between humans and animals. Don't miss our upcoming content. Each story opens a new window into the extraordinary world of human-animal connections. We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments.